What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and of course, we're back with another preparation video for the upcoming treasure map against X-Drake. So just to give you guys a quick rundown of what we're going through today, we're going to be talking about the new treasure map character X-Drake, discussing what his abilities are. Very obscure unit, by the way. We'll also go through all of the treasure map bosses, including the Intrusion Battle, and give you guys a free-to-play suggestion as what you should be aiming to build for this upcoming treasure map. Now, of course, if you've got summonable units, if you've got legends, if you've got other rare recruits, yes, there are definitely better replacements than the units you'll see in this video today, but this is just giving you guys a quick rundown as to what you should be expecting, and in terms of free-to-play, how you could get around some of these bosses. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So first thing is first, let's talk about the brand new X-Drake character. He's a pretty interesting unit. So he is going to be a strength slasher striker. You can see his stats there, that's with limit break expansion. I wouldn't really suggest using a key for this guy to expand his limit break, but the option's there. Obviously 60 cost, 5 socket spots. His captain effect will boost slasher character's attack by 3.25 and then reduce damage taken by 10%, and also boost the chances of you landing on a strength slot specifically. Unfortunately, doesn't make them beneficial, but it is what it is. It's not overly terrible. 3.25 is still reasonably good. Now, as for his special ability, it maxes down at a 14 turn cooldown with max special and limit break, and then if you expand his limit break, he gets 1 turn less cooldown, so he goes down to 13. So what it does is it will change badly matching slots into matching and deal non-type damage to one enemy and reduce enemy barriers based on the amount of strength, dex, and quick slots that you've consumed before activating the special. So the damage and the amount of turns that you reduce barriers will change depending on the amount of those orbs that you've consumed. So if you've consumed no orbs or 9 orbs in between that 0 to 9 of strength, dex, and quick slots, it is 1 turn barrier removal and 100,000 damage, which is pretty bad. Then if you do 10 to 24 strength, dex, or quick slots, 10 to 24, which is a pretty big margin, it's 3 turns of barrier removal and 1.5 million damage. So that's a very significant jump. And then if you go ahead and consume 25 slots of strength, dex, and quick before you launch the special, he removes 5 turns of barrier and does 2.5 million damage to one enemy. So it's interesting. It's very interesting the way that they built this guy. I don't think he's really going to be seeing that much play because you specifically have to consume strength, dex, and quick. So I guess on a Lucy team specifically, this guy could be pretty good. But I think there's still going to be some sort of ways to use this guy. 3 turns of barrier removal is very good, and that's relatively easy to get. You only need to consume 10 slots of strength, dex, and quick in order to achieve that. So that's actually reasonably usable. But to get to 25 orbs for 5 turns of removal, I don't really think that's really going to be seeing that much play. So getting into the swing of things, let's go ahead and talk about the Intrusion Battle first. So the Intrusion Battle is actually against Sober Mask, and he will appear on stage 2 and on stage 3. However, on stage 2, it does mention that there is a chance that Robbie will appear and she'll give you lots of beneficial effects. So if you do get that, you obviously don't have to deal with Sober Mask, which obviously is much, much easier. But Sober Mask, when you encounter him on stage 2, he has 500,000 HP, obviously gains 50,000 per nav level, and then he'll go ahead and have a delay immunity for 98 turns. He's going to burn you also for 3 turns, and that burn does 5,000 damage, and he also has a 1-hit perfect barrier for 98 turns. Not really too challenging. The only thing you really are dealing with here is a barrier, which you only have to hit 1 perfect to get through. But because he does burn you, which means you are going to be taking, 5,000 damage, unless if you remove the burn prior to attacking this character. And then you move on to stage 3. This Sober Mask has 1.5 million HP instead. He also has a delay immunity. He has 2 turns of damage threshold, and he also will inflict 2 turns of attack down to your crew. And the unit that's in your bottom right position is going to be blown away for 1 turn, and he also gives you a full board of block orbs. So pretty annoying to deal with. You want to make sure you have a threshold remover, an attack down remover, and you can change orbs into matching. That's basically what you want to be looking at here. Also, after turn 3, he buffs his own attack and applies end of turn damage, and below 50%, he removes your beneficial effects and gives you some block slots. And it's not stated here, but I'm pretty sure below 20%, he's basically going to kill you. So don't get him below 20% either. So the free-to-play team that I've got here for you guys utilizes a friend captain of Luffy and Zoro. They're just going to be exceptional here because characters that are free spirit or slasher are the characters that get their cooldowns reduced significantly on stage 1. So you mainly want to be focusing on free spirit and slashers, which all of these teams are except for Magellan. Magellan actually might be a little bit sketch on this team, but he's going to be so good if you do get his special ready, because he's going to be able to remove the threshold and also give you a conditional boost on the final boss fight. But I'm pretty sure Magellan might not be ready, so you may have to replace him with another unit that can remove damage threshold. But as for the rest of this team, they'll all get their cooldowns reduced, which makes it a lot easier. Shuten Maru, you can have him in the bottom right position and he can get blown away on the final boss fight if you do need to. But it really depends on your situation, because you've got Edward Weevil. You want to be using Edward Weevil in the final boss fight to remove the attack down that gets inflicted to your team, and because the enemy has a delay protector, you also get an attack boost of your own. So Weevil's very, very good for the final boss fight, which means that Shuten Maru isn't overly needed, but he has type advantage, which is really good, and you can use him on stage 2 for another attack boost if you need it. Shanks is really good because not only does he remove turns of burn, he only removes 1 turn of burn per special that you use of him, but you can use him to change your orbs into matching, which obviously is going to be very good to have. Luffy and Zoro are just exceptional, having type advantage with the Zoro side of things, so you're basically guaranteed to get a Wano slot on that character, and obviously having a 2 times, it'll probably be a 2 times orb boost and a 3 times chain lock. That's going to be really nice to have. And then Okiku's kind of like just replaceable. You can replace Okiku with any type of unit that has a much better captain effect. It really depends on the situation though. You could probably just use Shuten Maru as the captain instead and replace with replace Okiku with whatever you want, but you do have to make sure to have a unit to remove the threshold that he does apply on stage 3. The first of the Battle Rush bosses is against Hold'em. Hold'em is a Psy unit with 400,000 health, and he has a preemptive attack where he special binds your crewmates, and he will also inflict 2 turns of attack down to your entire team. He gives you a full board of block orbs and cuts your crew's HP by 60%. Now, I made a video yesterday talking about this, but this is why I suggested farming Shanks and Mihawk raid boss, because their special effect removes the special bind, removes the attack down, and because you're going to be below 50% HP, you also get a conditional attack boost, and he delays the enemy as well. So you get a self-proccing conditional boost that also removes all of the utility, and then you can run someone like Colosseum Kyoshiro to remove those block orbs and get a full board of matching orbs for your team. It is just super duper perfect, and it makes a lot of sense. So if you have the Shanks and Mihawk unit, it's like this boss is just a cakewalk, honestly. If you don't kill this guy by turn 2, he will burn you and give you more block orbs. But giving you guys the free-to-play team that I've suggested, obviously the characters that I mentioned, Shanks and Mihawk and Kyoshiro, are going to be your best bets. We've also got Carrot on this team because Carrot can be an attack booster for your crew. The Fortnite Noland is actually boosted, and he's an orb booster for int characters, so he's an option as well. And then just a filler unit on the side there, I do have Colosseum Kinemon. You could replace him with literally whatever you want, but Hold'em is a very, very easy boss. Shuten Maru is the second boss, and he is a dex unit with 450,000 HP with a preemptive attack of having a 98 turn delay immunity. Your captains will be binded for 5 turns, and all of your crewmates get inflicted with 1 turn of special reverse. It's technically 2 turns, but with preemptives it ends up going down to 1 turn, and if you guys leave him alive until turn 2, he will apply an attack up to himself, and he changes your crew slots randomly, and below 20%, he applies Despair, and he also gives himself defense up. So obviously units are going to help a lot here. If we go over to the free-to-play team that I've suggested, is Kizuna Okiku, because she is able to remove the bind on your captains as long as you have your max sockets, and also reduce the special cooldowns of your characters. So Kizuna Okiku is 100% the most recommended unit to bring as a sub for this team. Important to have her as a sub, not as your captain, otherwise the special reverse shenanigans won't work, and you need her to be unbinded, of course. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then as for the captains here, I'm just suggesting Raid Ace because it makes the most sense. And then the rest of these units are completely replaceable. You don't need any of these units specifically, but the really cool thing is someone like Colosseum Nekomamashi can be used to give you a full board of matching slots, considering he does have a delay immunity, so you can get those matching slots. Also, Colosseum Morley, because your captain is Free Spirit, you'll be able to get his self-procking conditional attack boost. And then Arlong is just a unit that's powerhouse that's boosted by Ace. That's the only reason why he's here, but all these units are completely replaceable, but having Ace as the captain is really suggested, or just any other unit that can utilize Okiku as a sub is the best way around Shuten Maru. The next of the Battle Rush bosses is going to be against Kyoshiro, who has 500,000 HP and a delay immunity once again. He has 3 turns of resilience that you have to get around, and he changes all of your crew slots into badly matching slots. Also, after turn 3, he's going to despair you and also give himself an enrage buff, and if you get him below 20%, he's going to go ahead and apply damage immunity to himself, so he takes no damage for 1 turn. So as for the free-to-play team that I've suggested here, utilizing the Kobe Meppo as the captain, because not only are they really good for Scion Int specifically, but they also are an attack boosting unit for Scion Int, so it makes perfect sense. We've also got Kizuna Shirahoshi, which is going to be very good because she treats your orbs as beneficial and then also gives you an orb boost. And Zorajiro is a really ideal unit here as well because he's able to go ahead and remove the resilience on Kyoshiro. If you have the Frenosuke rare recruit character, he's an exceptional unit here as well because his special ability will also remove the resilience, so you can bring him. And then with the combination of the dress up Fortnite Chopper and the free-to-play Wapple that was given out, those two specifically on this team will be able to give you a conditional boost against this guy. So all of these characters are just built to just hit extremely hard against Kyoshiro. This is probably one of the most optimal teams to be running against Kyoshiro. So if you have these units, make sure to run them against this guy, especially making sure to bring a unit to remove his resilience, which is also very, very important. And now moving on to the final of the Battle Rush bosses. Before the final boss is going to be Jack. Jack is a strength unit with 500,000 HP. He has an immunity buff, full immunity buff, and also will have 3 turns of defense up, % damage reduction, and damage threshold, and also changes all of your crew slots into block orbs. And after turn 3, and then every 2 turns afterwards, he's going to give you block orbs once again and paralyze your captains. When you eventually kill Jack, he's going to recover with 20% of his max HP and then paralyze your crew. This guy's really annoying because, you know, with some of the other units, you can actually get around not having some of the new batch, but this specific boss is essentially built to have Usohachi use his special, removes all the defensive effects, and that's basically it. Unfortunately, this is one of the only ones where I'd say this is a pretty tricky boss without Usohachi. As for the free-to-play team that I've suggested, it's nowhere near optimal. The way that it's built, it's not a very well-built team, I'll admit, but if you do fulfill the condition of making sure you have a strength captain on this specific team, this team will actually work. So with this team, you can stall 1 turn, and then after you stall 1 turn, the defensive effects will go down to a 2-turn timer, and then you can use the Wano Law special and Raid Zoro special, and that will remove all of his defensive effects. You can use Shanks on turn 1 to give you some matching slots as well, after you use those specials to remove the defensive effects. 6+ Lucy or Sabo is going to be very ideal here as a friend captain because he is a strength, dex, and quick boosting captain, also has a special ability that can give you multiple turns of an attack boost. If you are doing that though, you want to make sure you have 1 strength sub because you need to fulfill his condition of having strength, dex, and quick on your team. So that's very, very important. So you're able to use all these specials, and then when you eventually kill him and he revives and he gives you the paralysis, you can use the Robin special ability to remove that paralysis. However, if you have someone like Legend Barto and his support ability fully maxed out, you can literally use his support on Robin so that whenever you're inflicted with paralysis, he will be able to remove that with that support effect, which makes it much easier. And then you can use Robin's effect a little earlier on to remove some of the defensive effects. So you can definitely, you know, play your way around it if you've got some of the more some of the more summonable units, such as like Legends and other rare recruits like Usohachi and stuff like that. But obviously, if you don't have characters like that, you will have to resort to a little bit more annoying strategies in order to take down Jack. Either way, if you struggle against Jack, which I think a lot of people will, this is the particular boss that I would suggest for you guys to clear in the mid-map. It's going to make your fights a whole lot easier throughout this treasure map. And now we've finally made it to the final boss fight against X-Drake, but on stage 6 you have to deal with Basil Hawkins, who is a quick unit. He has 400,000 health, and he has a full delay immunity for 98 turns, and he also despairs your captain for 5 turns, or both of your captains for 5 turns. He also gives you 2 turns of increased damage taken, which actually doubles any damage that you're inflicted, which is pretty annoying. But then moving on to stage 7, which is the final boss against X-Drake, 1.25 million HP, him being a strength unit. His preemptive attack will have delay immunity for 98 turns. He'll also go ahead and slot bind your captains and also paralyze your captains for 2 turns. So ideally, if you have Sober Mask as a captain, you can use his captain action on stage 6 and carry that into stage 7, and therefore you can actually avoid a lot of these debuffs here, which is really good. He gives you those full board of empty orbs, which again, if you're using Sober Masks, that's not going to be a problem because his special will give you matching slots anyway. Now, X-Drake on turn 2, and then every 2 turns afterwards, he's going to give you empty orbs again, and he's going to slot bind all of your crewmates for 1 turn, and below 20%, X-Drake will deal 300 times his attack as damage towards your team. Essentially, you're dead. So don't get him below 20%, that's very, very important. So as for the free-to-play team that I've suggested here, this team utilizes the captain of Law and Chopper dual unit. Now, I don't know if they're the most optimal captain here. They're probably not, but the really cool thing about this unit is that this unit is a 1.35 times point booster in the treasure map. So, you know, you want to be using as many of the high point boosters as you possibly can, and this unit is a pretty easily accessible free-to-play unit. We've got Sobermask as the friend captain here. As we said, there's lots of great benefits to using him on this particular boss fight. We've also got Otama on this team. She's really good because you can use her to remove the Despair on stage 6, and then also on stage 6 you can use the Sobermask captain action to do a lot of damage towards Hawkins just by himself, and that will innately enable you to remove any sort of problems that you'll have on stage 6 specifically. And then on the final boss fight, you can basically launch all the rest of your specials. Now, because you don't have double Sobermask and your captain will still be paralyzed, you can actually use the special ability of Law and Chopper to remove the paralysis, which is great. And then you've got other specials such as Magellan for the conditional boost, Luffy for color affinity, then Sobermask to give you the full board of matching orbs and an attack boost, and then you can use Whitebeard for an orb boost. Like, this team is going to do a pretty serious amount of damage for a pretty long time, and especially because when you move into stage 7, you're still going to have one turn left on the captain action of Sobermask, and that's going to be enabling you to do even more damage than what you normally would do. So yeah, this team is going to be pretty good for taking down this X-Drake for a pretty long time. So now that we've gone through all the bosses in general, let's just have a quick rundown once again of all the teams that I'm suggesting here. Now, of course, the Intrusion Battle is against Sobermask, so running Luffy Zora as your friend captain is going to be super duper ideal, and you're going to make sure you have a Threshold Remover. I have Magellan here, but he doesn't get his cooldown reduced on stage 1, so I'm not 100% sure if his special will actually be ready by the time you encounter stage 3, which is when you need him. So take that team with a grain of salt. You may need to replace that with another unit that is Slasher or Free Spirit that can remove damage threshold. You've got Hold'em on the next stage, basically Shanks and Mihawk dual unit, and it's GG. You just make sure you have him and you're going to be good. Against Shuten Maru, make sure to have Okiku as a sub. That's going to help you out significantly in that fight to remove all the debuffs that get inflicted, and then just the rest of your team is dedicated to damage boosting. Against Kyoshiro, having Kobe Meppo as your captain for his attack boosting effects, and then you can have Shirahoshi as a sub to give you beneficial slots and an orb boost, and then Zorojuro to go ahead and remove the resilience on the enemy. If you've got Frenosuke Rare Recruit, you can use him instead to remove the resilience for extra points. But free-to-play wise, this works out just fine. Now, against Jack, this is the one I would suggest for you guys to clear in the mid-map. It's very, very important. Jack has a lot of defensive effects, and essentially, if you've got Usohachi, Jack is going to be way easier. But without him, you have to rely on a lot of other different specials that can remove defensive effects, which is why we've got a bunch of different units on this team, such as Wano Law, Zoro, and Orobi. Orobi's going to be good after he revives to remove the paralysis, but if you've got the Legend Barto as a support unit, he actually removes the paralysis for you. And remember, if you are using Lucy as a captain, you got to make sure to fulfill his condition of having a strength, a dex, and a quick unit on your team, which is why I suggest that unit to replace there as the captain spot to be a strength unit. And then against X-Drake, we just talked about it, but basically having Sobermask as a friend captain and then dedicating the rest of your team to damage boosting. As long as you have a unit to remove Despair on stage 6, the rest of your team is pretty easy to fill out. So making sure you have Sobermask as a friend for that one is going to help you out significantly. So that's going to wrap up this video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you guys did, make sure to leave a like, as these videos do take quite a long time to put together. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and if you guys did, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure to go ahead and do that, because we are so close to the 50,000 subscriber milestone. It would be absolutely amazing if we're able to reach that. So thank you so much for the continued support, guys. But on that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.